Hi, my name is Emma, and I am a 30-year-old website developer. Not just any developer, though. I'm the founder of Web Innovate, a company that has grown from a humble startup to a leading force in the digital world. My journey into the tech industry wasn't accidental. It was driven by a passion for creating and a knack for understanding the intricate dance of coding and design. I remember the early days, sitting in my small apartment, juggling freelance projects and dreaming of something bigger. Those nights were long, fueled by endless cups of coffee and the glowing light of my laptop screen. It was a solitary pursuit at first, but as my reputation grew, so did my client list. Success, however, isn't just about hard work. It's about vision. I saw a gap in the market for websites that weren't just functional, but visually stunning and user-friendly. I hired a small team of like-minded creatives, and together, we began to transform visions into digital realities. Our projects ranged from small boutique sites to major e-commerce platforms, each a testament to our dedication and skill. Yet, as much as I'd love to say it was all smooth sailing, the path to success is rarely without its obstacles. But every challenge was a lesson learned, making me and my company stronger. What I didn't realize, though, was that the greatest challenge was yet to unfold, not from the market, but from within my own family. If only life were as straightforward as debugging a complex code. But unlike coding, where errors usually scream in red, betrayal comes cloaked in familiar smiles and seemingly innocent interactions. It took me too long to notice that behind those smiles was a plot that would threaten everything I'd built. This chapter is about my sister, Lucy, whose charm masked her envy and greed. Lucy and I had always been different. While I immersed myself in the digital world, she thrived in social settings, charming everyone with her easy laughter and warmth. I admired her in a way, maybe too much. When she began showing interest in my work and my life with Michael, my husband, I was thrilled. I thought she was bonding with us, becoming part of my world. Little did I know, she saw my openness as an opportunity. Lucy began weaving her web by first becoming indispensable to Michael. It started with small favors and shared lunches, then slowly escalated to confidential talks and late-night messages. I was too caught up in my work to notice the changing dynamics at home. To me, Michael's slightly detached demeanor was just another phase, something we could easily get through with a few heart-to-hearts. I was naive. The real shock came when I noticed irregularities in my finances. At first, I thought it was an error, a glitch in the system. But as I dug deeper, the trail led to unexpected withdrawals and charges, luxuries that neither I nor Michael had enjoyed. Each discovery was a punch to the gut, a betrayal that pained more because it came wrapped in familial trust. When I finally confronted Michael, his evasions added to my suspicions. The truth, however, remained just out of reach, hidden behind his assurances that everything was fine. But nothing was fine. My gut told me there was more to the story, and I was determined to uncover it, not knowing yet that the sister I loved was at the heart of this deception. In coding, when something doesn't work, you trace back through the steps to find where it went wrong. Life turned out to be much the same, only the errors were harder to face, and the debugging process was far more painful. It started with a bill. Not just any bill, but one for a luxury spa, somewhere I'd never been but apparently had paid for. That was the first thread, one that I tugged on with a sinking heart and a mind swirling with confusion. Then came more. Charges for expensive jewelry, weekends at upscale resorts, and even plane tickets to places I had never visited. Each discovery felt like a betrayal, not just of my trust, but of the life I thought I was living. Armed with bank statements and credit card records, I decided it was time to dig deeper. I wasn't just going to sit back and watch my hard-earned money drain away. Setting up security measures and monitoring my accounts more closely, I slowly started piecing together the scope of the deception. And with each piece, the image that emerged was increasingly troubling. My trust in Michael was wavering, but I needed concrete proof. I installed hidden cameras and software to track the expenditures linked directly to my personal and business accounts. What I found shattered any remaining illusions. The footage didn't just reveal Michael's indiscretions, it highlighted meetings with Lucy that were clearly not brotherly. Their intimacy was undeniable, and seeing it firsthand was like a physical blow. Yet, knowing is different from proving. I needed undeniable evidence if I was going to confront them or take legal action. I enlisted the help of a private investigator, a move that felt so out of character for my usual straightforward approach to problems. But this was no simple bug fix. This was my life, my family, my trust all crumbling. As the evidence mounted, so did my resolve. I was ready to confront Michael and Lucy, to demand answers. But deep down, I knew that some questions are better left unasked, especially when you already know the truth. The next step was clear, but taking it meant acknowledging that the sister I loved and the man I married were not the people I thought they were. There's a saying in tech, never face a big problem alone if you don't have to. It was advice I took to heart, not just in my professional life, but now, more crucially, in my personal crisis. That's when James came into the picture, Lucy's husband, an unsuspecting player in this tangled web. I approached James with a heavy heart, weighed down by the betrayal, but buoyed by the need for justice. I remember our meeting clearly. It was a rainy afternoon, the kind where the world seems muted and gray, much like how I felt inside. We met in a quiet coffee shop, away from prying eyes and ears. The look on his face when I laid out the evidence was a mix of shock, pain, and disbelief. Lucy's betrayal stung him as sharply as Michael's deceit had cut into me. James was a straightforward man, practical and unassuming, qualities that made the news of Lucy's infidelity and scheming hit even harder. After the initial shock, his confusion turned to anger, and then, like me, to a resolve that surprised us both. We agreed that neither rage nor sorrow could fix what was broken, but perhaps together, we could hold those responsible accountable. Our plan was simple yet risky. We decided to gather incontrovertible proof of the affair and the theft. James had access to some of Lucy's personal effects, devices that could hold messages, emails, and other digital footprints of their deceit. Meanwhile, I would continue to monitor the financial trails and gather video evidence from the cameras I had installed. Together, we set up scenarios to catch Lucy and Michael in the act. James invited them to events and recorded their interactions, while I made sure my cameras were strategically placed to capture their meetings. It was a dance of deceit, with James and I orchestrating the steps, leading them unknowingly into our trap. The process was draining, both emotionally and physically. Every new piece of evidence was a stab of betrayal, yet each was necessary to build our case. It was during these dark days that I learned the value of an unlikely ally. James, though a victim like me, showed a strength and cunning that I couldn't have managed alone. As our collection of evidence grew, so did our bond, forged in the fire of our shared ordeal. We were ready for the next phase, the confrontation. It loomed ahead, daunting yet necessary. But I knew with James by my side, we were a formidable force. The deceitful web spun by Lucy and Michael was about to be unraveled by their own undoing. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that the truth, no matter how painful, always finds a way to surface. And now, armed with undeniable proof and an unwavering ally in James, it was time to bring that truth into the light. We decided the best way to confront Lucy and Michael was under the guise of normalcy, a setting where they wouldn't expect a confrontation. I suggested a dinner party at my home, a seemingly innocent gathering to celebrate recent successes in our respective careers. The irony of celebrating amidst our private turmoil wasn't lost on me, but it provided the perfect backdrop for our reveal. As the evening approached, the air in my home was thick with tension, masked by the clinking of glasses and polite conversation. Lucy and Michael arrived together, smiling and oblivious to the storm they were about to walk into. James was already there, playing his part, though the strain was visible under his calm exterior. After dinner, we gathered in the living room. I remember the way the soft light of the lamps cast shadows on the walls, shadows that felt like a metaphor for the hidden truths about to be exposed. I started by thanking everyone for their support over the years, my voice steady despite the shaking I felt inside. Then, as I turned to Michael and Lucy, the room fell eerily silent. I have something important to discuss, I began, my heart pounding in my chest. It's about trust, betrayal, and the consequences of our actions. Michael's face paled, and Lucy's eyes darted nervously. James closed the doors to the room, ensuring privacy for what was to come. I clicked the remote, and the first video appeared on the screen. Michael and Lucy, unmistakably close, in a way no sister and brother-in-law should be. The footage was clear, irrefutable. I paused it, letting the image sink in. "Can either of you explain this?" I asked, my voice firm. Their initial shock quickly turned to denial. Lucy tried to laugh it off, claiming it was a misunderstanding, while Michael mumbled excuses. But as I presented more evidence, emails, messages, financial statements, their defenses crumbled. The proof was overwhelming. "You've stolen from me, betrayed me," I continued, my words slicing through their feeble apologies. "Both of you planned this together. And for what? Greed? Lust?" James stood beside me, his presence a silent support. He didn't need to say anything. The evidence spoke loudly enough. Finally, Lucy broke down, tears streaming down her face as she confessed. Michael followed, his confession laced with shame and regret. The truth was out, heavy and suffocating in the room. But with it came a sense of relief, a weight lifted. The confrontation had been harrowing, yet necessary. As they left my house that night, the bond between us irreparably broken, I felt the chapter of my life dominated by deceit finally close. It was a painful victory, bitter and hard one. But it was a victory nonetheless, paving the way for justice and, eventually, healing. The next steps would involve legal proceedings, but for now, I took solace in having uncovered the truth, with James by my side. The truth was out, and with it, the path to justice was clear. After the confrontation, it felt like I could finally breathe, even if the air was still heavy with the aftermath of betrayal. Now, it was time to ensure that Lucy and Michael faced the consequences of their actions. The following days were a whirlwind. Armed with our solid evidence, I contacted a lawyer to discuss the best course of legal action. The evidence was indisputable: theft, fraud, and breach of trust. My lawyer was meticulous, ensuring that every document was accounted for, every video timestamped. It was a painstaking process, but necessary for what was to come. James and I met frequently to align our strategies. Despite the turmoil, or perhaps because of it, our alliance had strengthened. He was not just a fellow victim in this saga, but had become a friend and confidant. Together, we filed a joint lawsuit against Lucy and Michael, charging them with fraud and theft. The legal system could be slow, but our case was ironclad. The court proceedings were tense. Lucy and Michael had their defense, weak and unconvincing against the mountain of evidence we presented. Witness after witness corroborated our claims, and the financial records painted a clear picture of deceit. When it was time for the verdict, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Guilty. The word echoed in the courtroom, a solemn sound that marked the end of our ordeal. Both Lucy and Michael were sentenced to jail time for their crimes. The judge remarked on the egregiousness of their betrayal, especially considering the familial bonds they had exploited. The final gavel had struck, the courtroom battles had concluded, and the chapter of deceit had firmly closed behind me. Now, it was time to look forward, to the horizons of new beginnings and renewed dreams. The path had been arduous, lined with betrayal and heartbreak, but also paved with invaluable lessons and unexpected friendships. In the aftermath of the trial, I found myself returning to my roots, the very essence of why I started Web Innovate. I had always believed in the transformative power of technology, in its ability to bridge gaps, to solve problems, to create beauty. Now, more than ever, I was committed to pushing those boundaries, to innovating, not just for the sake of business, but to make a meaningful impact. The process of rebuilding was both literal and metaphorical. At the office, walls that had once echoed with betrayal now resounded with plans for expansion, new projects, and a vibrant energy that was palpable. I expanded my team, bringing in fresh talents, dynamic, innovative minds eager to make their mark. Together, we launched new services, focusing on security and ethical business practices, drawing from the very lessons that the ordeal had taught me. But the rebuilding wasn't just about the business. It was also about me, about rediscovering who Emma Jenkins was beyond the titles of CEO and victim. I invested time in myself, in healing. Yoga, meditation, and long walks became part of my routine, each step a movement towards inner peace and resilience. One of the brightest moments in this new chapter was writing a book. Titled Resilience in the Digital Age, it was part memoir, part business guide, encapsulating the journey of Web Innovate, intertwined with personal stories of overcoming adversity. Writing it was therapeutic, a way to process everything that had happened and to share my story with others who might be facing their own battles. Community involvement became another facet of my new beginning. I started a scholarship fund for young women in tech, hoping to empower the next generation of female leaders. It was a way of giving back, of turning my experiences into something positive that could help others. As for James, our friendship continued to flourish. He, too, had turned his trials into triumphs, starting a consultancy firm that specialized in corporate ethics. We collaborated on several projects, our shared experiences a foundation for a strong professional partnership and a lasting friendship. Reflecting on everything, I realized that while the betrayal had torn down so much, it had also revealed so much more. It showed me my strengths, introduced me to new passions, and taught me the depth of my resilience. Yes, I had been betrayed by those closest to me, but I had also been supported by many more. As I sit here, looking out over the city from my office window, I feel a profound sense of peace and purpose. The road was nothing like I had planned, but perhaps that's just how it needed to be. For now, the future looks bright, and I am ready for whatever it holds, armed with lessons learned and a heart open to new possibilities. And so, with a heart full of gratitude and eyes fixed on the horizon, I embrace this new dawn, eager to see what wonders it will bring.